Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Belton here. As many of you may have noticed, and a few of you have inquired about to me personally, I am no longer streaming on Twitch, and my account is no longer present on Twitch. I'm going to explain as briefly as I can how that happened, and just sort of put it forward. This is not really a call to action. I'm not looking for any sympathy or anything like that. I do think the situation is a little suspect, and specifically some of the word choice I find incredibly troubling. But, anyways, we'll lay this all out here. About 2 months ago, I was having a discussion on stream, as I normally do, talking about the economy in the game. And I mentioned, as I often do, that one of the bigger issues that has arisen in PoE 2 is the presence of real money trading, or RMT. It is incredibly present in a way that never existed in PoE 1. Damn near ubiquitous, I would say. But perhaps even more troubling, I think, is that how sort of blatant and in your face it is. To give some context here, as an example, in case some of you guys haven't experienced this too much, I went for lunch one day, and this is what my DMs looked like after going for lunch. So, as you can see, in about a 45-minute window there, I got spammed probably 15 times by RMT websites. Now, I have no underlying prejudice towards this. However, the plural of anecdote is data. And as I trade all day long, it is very obvious to myself, and I suspect to many of you, that the inclusion of the Chinese or the Hong Kong server to Path of Exile 2, something that is new from Path of Exile 1, has exacerbated this problem exponentially. RMT has always existed in PoE. In PoE 1, it definitely was there. It was definitely a bit of a shadow economy. It wasn't really something that was super in your face. In PoE 2, though, it is really evident. And I think it causes a ton of problems for the game, some of which are very obvious to me because I trade all day and I transact, obviously, in a lot of high-end items. Now, again, I just like to point out and to clarify here, I have zero insinuations, undertones, or anything, any kind of prejudice or um, belittling comments to make about Chinese people. What I am referring to is the fact that the Hong Kong server, a server that was added to the game and that used to be separate in Path of Exile 1, is a major cause of this. Now, I'm not insinuating by any measure that the majority of Chinese players are RMTing. However, the vast majority of people that are RMTing are Chinese. And I care about Path of Exile very much so, in particular because of the area in which I focus. Naturally, when there's this sort of ill-gotten gains happening and this sort of shadow economy that is becoming ever more omnipresent, that impacts the capacity I have to meaningfully, teach people, I suppose, right? It's hard to tell people to kind of pull up their bootstraps, work harder, and take care of their own sort of financial means in the game when it is very glaringly obvious that there is a massive surge in this RMT stuff. Now, I don't think that is too controversial at face value, and it's certainly not something that I am going to bite my tongue over. I think that it is incumbent upon me, as somebody that has focused on this area of the game for better part of 12 years now, to talk about these things and to talk about issues where they arise. And it certainly is a problem, and it's one that I voice my opinions on quite frequently. Now, bringing that back to the Twitch situation, in the middle of March at some point, I always stream. Sorry, there's a bit of to take a step back for a sec. I always stream in either 6 days on or 7 days on, and then I take either 3 days off or 4 days off, right? So I play like, 16, 17, 18-hour streams for, 6 or 7 days, and then for 4 days I just don't play at all. And that's a cycle that I've been doing for a couple of years now. Sometime in March, after finishing a streaming cycle, 3 days after I finished stream, I got an email telling me that I had been suspended because of a moment in my VOD, which was not public. And again, 3 days after I had streamed, is just saying that it was for hateful conduct. which I thought was rather vague. It didn't have a timestamp. There was no soundbite. There was no clip. There was no transcript. It just said hateful conduct, no specifics, and the VOD was deleted. It was a 1 week suspension, and because I was gone for 4 days, I just didn't think it was a big deal. Maybe I made some sort of joke. I understand my sense of humor and perhaps my, mannerisms and idiosyncrasies and whatever. Maybe I'm a little brazen and bombastic at times. It's not the first time that I've made a joke, whatever. I really didn't put too much thought into it. The 7 days suspension came and went. Again, this is back in March. And I just went on, my stream came back up, went on, streaming as I normally do. About a month and a half later, someone in my Twitch chat pointed out to me that they were receiving white. They kept getting ads, right? But they were white, like just a white screen would come up. And, those of you who are familiar with myself know that I'm not too tech savvy. So that would mean nothing to me at face value. But the guy actually said to me, oh, the only time I've ever seen this before is when people are shadow banned or shadow demonetized. You should look into that. So when I finished the stream, I looked, and it turns out the guy was right. I actually had been demonetized on my ad revenue for, since that suspension had happened. And I couldn't understand why, because there was no email, there was no indication that was the case. And so it took me about a week to figure it out. And I realized that I guess Twitch had instituted a new policy where, on the basis of what you have actions on your account taken for, they can put on like these, they can limit your account in terms of how you can monetize it. Now, they don't tell you. They still run the ads. They just don't pay you for them. And they still make you run a minimum amount of ads or whatever. And again, it's not really about the money. It's just, again, I found that to be somewhat duplicitous. So in that moment, I wrote them an email in the appeal window because I did not have an active suspension at the time. And I couldn't figure out why it was, happening. And a few days later, I got an email back from them. And this is where I was, again, taken aback quite a bit. And specifically their word choice here. So I'll just show you the exact email. So this was the response that I got from Twitch to my appeal, which was just actually asking, hey, do you mind telling me what it was that I did that constitutes hateful conduct? It's a pretty vague phrase. And, the actual TOS on their thing, it's quite an umbrella category. And what they said back to me was that, first of all, they said that your account was recently suspended, and after reviewing it, we've decided that your account will remain suspended. Now, you can see that this was sent on April 28th, which is funny because I had been streaming since the middle of March, so my account wasn't suspended. But this is the part that really bothered me. If you participate in our experimental education program and pass your course, we will remove your suspension and reinstate your account. Now, I mean, just the insinuation of a re-education classes, in particular experimental ones, just the way that this is worded really kind of gave me the ick. Why would you not just say, hey, we have a 5-minute a review of our terms of service. Can you please complete this to make sure that, you're up to date with our current policies and procedures or whatever, right? Like just something a little bit more boilerplate like that, I thought would have been more appropriate. The experimental re-education thing kind of was a bit of a red flag to me, that perhaps there was something else that was either, there's really three things I could think of in that situation. Either number one, over the 12,000 hours and 10 years I've streamed, through the various minor suspensions or blips or complaints or whatever that have happened on my account over time, perhaps they just found my general outlook and personality to be problematic and they're just looking for a way to get rid of it. Or number two, perhaps people are weaponizing the reporting thing. This has happened in the past when I was getting into issues with TFT. For example, they would come into my chat, spam porn, and then report me for explicit images, because at that time my account was not partnered. So Twitch immediately removed my ban when I appealed it, but it took them 3 months to actually get to my my appeal because my account wasn't a priority, I suppose. And so things like that have been able to be weaponized in the past. Maybe it's somebody doing that. These things tend to coincide with when I am mirror crafting. So I don't think it's necessarily purely coincidental, because in particular in PoE2, that could be big bucks out of somebody's pocket, I suppose. That's just conjecture and speculation. I don't have any, obviously, I don't have the, the background information to support that. Just throwing it out there. Or number three is that there is some kind of AI doing like sweeps through this, and if there's a report, it just looks for different keywords. But again, it is incredibly vague, and still to this point, up until this situation here, I actually explicitly asked them if they could send me either a clip, a transcript, the moment, let me know what it was. And again, as you can see in the reply here, there is no indication as to what it actually was that I was suspended for. And so I was completely demonetized. And that was quite frustrating because I was actually losing money. I had streamed 450 hours over the 2 previous months. And my internet bill actually was more. I was losing about $100 a month to stream. And again, 450 hours is not unsubstantial. But that's not really here nor there. This isn't, me trying to solicit money or anything like that. Just as a, you don't need people to pat you on the back, but you don't want to be spit in the face either, right? Anyways, so let's look at the hateful conduct here, right? And so here are some guidelines for what it is. And going through this, I think I figured out what it was that constituted the suspension the first time. And where is this? Here we go. Calls for exclusion from online services based on a protected characteristic, or statements questioning the integrity of a protected group, including statements suggesting that a protected group are all cheaters. Obviously, the offhand way to refer to that is they're saying like the Chinese RMTers. Obviously, again, I think anyone that's intellectually honest knows that this is not me insinuating that every single person that lives in the country of China is a cheating. But naturally, if let's say there's 1,000 people RMTing, right, there may be 100,000 people playing from China. But if 900 of those people that are RMTing are from China, that's 90% of the RMTers. Now, 900 out of 100,000 is nowhere near a majority of Chinese players. It's just the vast majority of the people that are RMTing are very clearly from China. And there are cultural differences in gaming, right? Like this is not a revolutionary thought here. Path of Exile 1 had the entire world on one server, and then the Chinese had their own server. And it wasn't just because of the CCP's internet laws, because if that were the case, then the games would be the same, but they weren't. The PoE 1, the Chinese version of the game, always had a currency exchange. You were allowed to openly advertise RMT websites and global channels, and they had a little pet that follows you around to pick things up for you, right? And so obviously the people that design the game understand the fact that the ethical microtransaction, non-pay-to-win version of the game that maybe might be more of a Western philosophy with respect to game design, just is not congruent with the gaming style there. I don't think that this is a very controversial either. I've made a couple posts on my community section on YouTube here, and every time that I do, it's 200 people comment, many of whom are Chinese, and just they co-sign this, right? Again, there's not really like any moral equivocation there, just pointing out an issue that exists in the game. And the reason why this is problematic, and I, in particular on my end, why it bothers me so much, is that on the Path of Exile website, under game overview, right? For the past 12 years, the game has had this little blurb to describe Path of Exile in its entirety using 3 sentences. And these are the basic pillars of which the game is designed. Here are the sentences. Number 1, Path of Exile is an online action RPG set in the dark fantasy world of Rayclass. Okay. Number 2, it is designed around a strong online item economy, deep character customization, competitive PvP, and ladder races. Okay. And sentence number 3, the game is completely free and will never be pay to win. And this is the one that bothers me, because not only is it in the TOS, but it is literally one of the 3 pillars on their own website that has unchanged in, 13 years now I've played, that has always been there. And on a more selfish level too, it's like if this is something that's going to be widely adapted, I guarantee you I'd make a lot more money making YouTube videos on how to make $500 to $1,000 a day playing a video game, because that's how much I would make if I did RMT. And so obviously, if you look at it from that opportunity cost perspective, in PoE1 I have about 30,000 mirrors. On a bad day, that's close to $1 million worth of currency. It's not that liquid, but we're not talking about small values here. And so the fact that they're doing so little to enforce their own rules, I think is incredibly misguided, unfair, and it's really incredibly disheartening, because obviously this game holds a very dear place in my heart. But nonetheless, though, that's the impetus for my concerns therein. And again, irrespective of what happens with Twitch, I will not at any point balk on that. Anyways, getting back to this, the TOS thing here, that is the only thing that I could think possibly is that calls for exclusion from an online service on a protected characteristic. I suppose because in a shorthand I said the Chinese RM tiers. I suppose being Chinese would be a protected characteristic. I never said anything about Twitch, but I suspect that probably transcends there. One of the things I did find interesting, though, is that we do, however, allow discussions on certain topics such as immigration policy. And I found that very funny, and this is just sort of a tangent here, not really pertinent to why I'm not streaming on Twitch anymore. But I do find it funny that, hypothetically, I could say I don't think Chinese people should be allowed to immigrate to Canada or to the US, and that would be okay. But I can't say maybe we should re-separate the servers like they were for the past 13 years because the styles of play are diametrically opposing, and the value extraction outlook of those that are getting those ill-gotten gains eventually will move away the legitimate player base to a point that you'll hit a breaking point, and then when there's not enough money to be made off of people that are buying, then the people that are supplying are going to stop playing as well, and then it's like a house of cards, right? I mean, it's fairly predictable in that respect. But this is all I could surmise for the first one. Again, they refused to clarify for me, so I do believe that is why I got demonetized. Once I got that appeal email back, primarily the language of it, the experimental re-education classes, especially because it was with like a tacit refusal to actually clarify what it was I was suspended for. Again, they have these sort of categorical things that there's like 8 categories that are TOS breaks. Then within each one of those, they've got 30 or 40 different bullet points. And so I don't think I did myself any favors, because I was definitely making fun of that a little bit, because it just sounds very Orwellian, and I also can't help but appreciate the hypocrisy of it, given the fact that Jeff Bezos owns Amazon, who owns Twitch, and he was about 7 feet away from Trump at his inauguration while he went on a 20-minute rant about China. But I don't think that would really take me too far in my appeal process. But either way, can't help but appreciate the irony at times. Anyways, over the next week or so, which is coming up to last week, I had mentioned to people that I was demonetized, in particular because people were getting frustrated that Twitch was showing them ads. As I said, I was demonetized from them, so naturally I was getting a little frustrated when people are yelling at me because they're getting ads from Twitch. That obviously I'm not putting them there, but if you don't run at least 3 minutes of ads an hour, then Twitch will automatically put a 3-minute pre-roll ad at the beginning anytime somebody comes to watch the stream, which naturally is going to have a pretty significant pullback on any kind of organic growth. I was just explaining to people with that, and quite a few people tried to sub to me because that was one of the ways that I could earn money still with Twitch. However, Twitch takes 50% of a sub, and then they withhold 30% for tax reasons. So from a $5 sub, you get what's that? $1.75. So again, it's not like you're breaking the bank there, but it was more just the gesture of it symbolically that I appreciated. But In any case, we finished up the last 6 days of streaming cycle. I finished the mirror spear. We made the best spear to ever exist in the game, 1009 PDPS. I'm sorry that I haven't put a video out on that. Obviously, because I don't have my VODs now, I am unable to do so. So to remedy that, I actually came over to standard. I made the exact same spear from scratch. I've spent about 4,000 divines doing so. And you can see here, I've lined it up with another 3,500 divines worth of things so that I can actually do a step-by-step crafting video, despite the fact we've already actually finished it on Dawn of the Hunt. But, do what we can with what we got, I suppose. In any case, though, yeah, finished the mirror spear, went away for a few days, and then I came back yesterday, tried to log in, and I had an email letting me know that your Twitch account has been permanently suspended. Now this one I had no idea. The alleged infraction took place on a VOD 3 days after I stopped streaming. They didn't send me a transcript, a clip, video, notes, no specifics, and it was just a categorical thing again. This one was a little even more abstract though, and made absolutely no sense to me, because I know factually, like sometimes I make jokes that might, like I might say like, oh, that's fucking retarded, or call something gay without like thinking about, like, you know what I mean? And when I say gay, I don't mean it in like you know what I mean, like the way people would say it in the 90s or 2000s. That's a character flaw in mine, and certainly I should be more conscientious of it while streaming and stuff. But I accept, if there's ever repercussions for little things like that, naturally, that's mea culpa there, right? But these ones just straight up confused me because I guess after looking through the TOS, I could find a way to sort of intellectualize the reasoning for the first one, I suppose, if you were taking it with the least generous interpretation, and absolutely zero nuance. I suppose you could say that, but this one I just doesn't make sense to me though, because the reasoning for this allegedly is serious violent threats. Now I'd like to point out that they're saying I made serious violent threats on VOD 5 days after while crafting the mirror spear done. I might play the game today. So that was right after I finished the spear. Now, because they have these sort of broad categorical things, and sorry, just to go through this again, it doesn't have, you can see, it just says on streamer VOD, content title, suspension like permanent, doesn't give you any details. This is deleted, obviously. Doesn't tell you anything else. And so I opened up the community guidelines here. Where are we? Violence and threats. So here, attempts to threat or physically harm or kill others. Factually, no, I never did that. Attempts to hack, dox, DDoS, or SWAT others. I wouldn't even know how to do that. I didn't even know what half these words meant until a few months ago. The use of weapons to physically threaten, intimidate, harm, or kill others. Yeah, never done that. I'm in Canada right now. I don't have any weapons. The worst, I suppose, and perhaps I can't imagine in a billion, trillion years that this would be it. But I think I was showing the book here some point last week where there's a photo of me in the army. But I can't imagine a photo of me in the army would constitute a threat. And then the other one is encouraging others to participate in acts that may harm others. And I racked my brain for like hours lying in bed trying to think of anything that would fall under any one of those umbrella categories. And the only thing that came to mind was when I said, and I say this all the time, I think it's important that every dude gets punched in the face at some point in their life, because you can tell when somebody's never been punched in the face. And I think it's a very, like, it's a good character building thing, right? Like, I'm not saying somebody gets hurt, but like at some point, I feel like every dude before they die should get clocked once by a friend, bar fight, whatever it is, just so they know, right? It's like when you're a little kid, you hold your hand to the flame, to the fire. You don't want the kid to burn its hand too much, but it needs to realize that fire is hot. Same thing. But again, never directed at anyone. And like, I say that as like rhetoric, sometimes jokingly, and usually in response to people being like incredibly ostentatiously offside or brazen. You know, like uh, just when people go, yeah, I mean, it's the internet. You guys know how negative people are, right? It's like a blow off mechanism. But again, never specifically to anyone, and certainly never to the point that it would ever constitute a threat. And I don't even know if I did do that during the VOD, but that would be the only thing I think that would ever even come into that realm. And again, I anyone who is intellectually honest knows that that is in no means a threat. It is, first of all, it's primarily banter, but secondly, it's not. There is no recipient of that sort of general thought. So I don't know. That is again. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe those of you listening to this can remind me of. Oh, Belton, no, you actually blacked out and started DMing people, telling them that you're going to hunt them down and murder them. But notwithstanding a Walter White-esque fugue state, I'm pretty sure that I'm in the clear on that front. Nonetheless, though, again, there's zero specificity on their part, and that's a little, troubling. Not troubling, but like I've streamed on Twitch for 10 years and like 12,000 hours. Like I'm not a huge streamer, but I've made these guys tens of thousands of dollars. And over such a long period of time, you would think that if they're going to like terminate that relationship, they would at least have like the decency to tell you why, right? For peace of mind. But they don't. And they didn't the previous time, and they demonetized the previous time. So, again, I mentioned the three vectors in which I think this could be happening. One, just, incompatibility, I suppose, with the moderation team and myself, and they just want to get rid of me. Two, being people are like attempting to weaponize reporting me because of reasons in game. Or three, there's some kind of AI scanning going through that is perhaps just not, that is dispossessed of the nuance to understand, banter or chief complaints or whatever. I don't really know. In any case, it is what it is. That is why my Twitch is down. Definitely a bummer. Definitely not super stoked about it. But yeah, there's a certain calm or piece too. I guess I have the when I saw the re-education email, that like actually bothered me. Like not in like a I gotta go touch grass neckbeard kind of way, because I definitely have those moments. But like in a this is like a really that's kind of dark almost, and I don't really want to be on a platform that tries to lord people's livelihoods over them. Not necessarily my livelihood, but in general, people that are full-time streamers, demonetize them under the auspices that they take an experimental education course. Because I have interacted with Twitch staff far too many times to think that there is any merit to any kind of educational programming that they could put forth. Let's just say they are not the brightest bunch. Anyways, that's probably not going to help the appeal. To move on from that, though, I did my first stream yesterday on YouTube. For those of you on YouTube, I have never streamed on YouTube before. In fact, despite the fact I have streamed for like a decade and like tens of thousands of hours, I really am not so good on the back end stuff. I don't actually watch streams because anytime I'm gaming, I stream myself. And so from a viewer experience perspective, I don't really know how to kind of navigate that. There's probably going to be a bit of a learning curve. If any of you guys feel like coming by, give me some advice or some suggestions on what I can improve, or maybe different apps or not whatever, or emojis or whatever it is. I don't know, internet shit. If there's stuff like that that you think I could use that might help me out or might improve the viewing experience, then come on by and let me know. Again, this is not a call to action here. I'm not looking for anyone's sympathy or trying to cause like a big stir about this. But enough people have asked me now, and quite a few have DM'd as well. And so I thought I might as well at least explain that, and also let you guys know that I'll be streaming on YouTube. I'm not sure how good YouTube's like for me, even trying to find my stream, I had to go to my like profile, and then I saw it on the homepage. I don't know if it like pushes it out on the homepage. I've never actually watched a stream on YouTube. So just looking at the numbers yesterday, it was about a third of what I would normally do on a stream. So that's to be expected. And it's okay if there's not a huge audience watching them. It's more of a passion project than anything. But for those of you who do share that passion and do want to come check out what I'm up to or have any questions or whatever, I will be on YouTube. And what are we at here? Oh, 30 minutes, classic. Let's try and keep it below that. But yeah, it seems to be my sweet spot. Anyways, guys, yeah, that's what's up with me. I did put an appeal in with Twitch, primarily really just to ask them. I just read the TOS for the alleged infraction. I'm quite certain I did not do these things. Yet again, there's been action taken on the account during a day. I'm not streaming from a VOD that is not public with a ban message that gives no timestamp, no clip, no transcript, and no specifics. How am I supposed to be able to appeal a ban that I am resolutely certain did not happen? Then just talked about how I've streamed for 10 years and 12,000 hours, and I think their corporate service or their customer service is reprehensible, and the blasé attitude that they have doing. I mean, this is probably the greatest single pursuit I've ever had in my life in terms of time investment. So, while I'm sort of poo-pooing this right now, it's significant if for nothing else but that, right? So I really do hope they at least get back to me and let me know what it was, and if they do, I'll obviously pass that along to you guys. And if you guys have any ideas too, maybe I'm just sheltering myself from my own behaviors, and I'm unaware if I did do things that what were the terms they used? Hateful conduct and serious and violent threatening or whatever. Maybe I blacked out. So let me know in the comments below if you have any thoughts on this, or if you would like to be re-educated. I still have the link to the experimental education program, so that might make some good content one day. We can find out what core values and philosophical underpinnings belie the wizards at Twitch. And if not, I will see you guys for some more crafting sessions, some more PoE, and hopefully some more good times. As I said, sort of alluded to earlier, I will be posting a video shortly to talk about that first spear craft we did through the lens of a second spear here, just so I can show it to you guys in real time. All right, God bless, take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers, fellas.